Hi, and welcome to Youth Matters. My name's Casey. I'm joined tonight by Yara and Alex. Tonight we're going to be talking about eating disorders. Yara, can you tell us a little bit about what the eating disorders are?
As eating disorder is a mental disorder which defines by an abnormal eating habits that negatively affect a person's physical and mental health. One of these eating disorder types is bulimia nervosa. It's a serious psychiatric illnesses which characterized by recurrent binge eating episodes. When people just eat a large amount of food in a very short period of time. Binge episodes are associated with a sense of loss of control and immediately followed by feelings of guilt and shame, which then leads the person engage in behavior such as self-induced vomiting, fasting, overexercising, and the misuse of laxatives, enemas, and diuretics. Bulimia nervosa often starts with weight loss dieting. Binge eating disorder is another type of eating disorder. Same is a psychological illness which characterized by promptly eating excessive amounts of food, often when not hungry. Bingles represent a distraction that allows a person to avoid thinking about the real root of their problems. Feelings of the guilt, disgust, and depression often follow a binging episode. A binge eating disorder is not the same as overeating, as is a recurrent and more serious. Binge eating disorder is similar to, but not the same as bulimia nervosa. In binge eating disorder can affect anybody regardless of age, gender, or ethnicity. In fact, research suggests equal percentage of males and females experience binge eating disorder. Another type of eating disorder is anorexia nervosa, which is psychological illness also, but with devastating physical results. Anorexia nervosa characterized by low body weight and body image distortion with an obsessive fear of gaining weight, exercise, which manifests itself through depriving the body of food. It often with increased level of exercise, and anorexia nervosa has two types, which you can classify as subtypes. First type is a restricting type. This is the most commonly known type of anorexia nervosa, where a person severely restricts their food intake. Restriction may take many forms, like calorie count, restricting types of food eating, or just eat one meal in a day, and may follow obsessive and rigid rules, like eating food just of the same color, one color. Binge eating type is less recognized as the person restricts the intake as above, but also during some both of restrictions, the person has regularly engaged in binge eating. Self-induced vomiting, overexercise, misuse of laxatives, diuretics, enemas, such in this type.
Thanks, Yara. That was really informative. Now we're going to hear from Jairus, who's going to tell us about his real-life experience of what it's like to have a family member living with an eating disorder.
Hi, my name's Jairus. So I'm going to be talking about Amy today, my sister. So Amy was 17 years old at the time. She was just going into the end of her final year at high school when this kind of all started. And so that year really weighed on her quite a lot. She'd always been quite competitive with me and with her classmates, and also been a perfectionist in her work. So whenever she would do a project or when she would do her classwork, she would always try and make it the best as she could possibly be. And that she really struggled with that during her final year of high school. The extra expectations seemed to weigh on her quite a lot. and she didn't quite seem to be able to measure up to her own expectations at that time. And then it was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back was her school ball. So she was quite stressed about her school ball, the extra organising, trying to find a dress, trying to find a partner. Most of her friends had partners, so they had boyfriends or they were going with someone, but she didn't have anyone, and she ended up not going with anyone to the ball. I remember her feeling quite down about this at the time, and we didn't really notice it then, but she also dropped about 5 or 6, 7 kilos for the school ball, just so she could look really nice for the night, and she ended up getting quite a lot of compliments for that then, and we believe that those compliments may have been contributing factors towards her eventual anorexia. She came back from the ball that night very, very happy. She had a great time. And then it kind of was like the few weeks on, we started to notice a few changes. Amy was starting to be a bit more picky about what she ate. She started cutting out things like bread and meat, kind of carbs. Wasn't really explaining this. She would just kind of say, hey, I'm not eating that. And we were trying to get her to eat like different foods. Parents would cook different meals each night. And it wasn't very long until we noticed that Amy was very thin. We then found out she was throwing food in the bin, things like toast for breakfast, stuff like that. She'd throw those in the bin and then she'd be quite dishonest about it. So being dishonest about her eating habits. She was also withdrawing from the family every time anyone confronted her about it, she would try and pass it off. There's nothing wrong, you're being ridiculous, and she would withdraw within herself, and it became very hard to talk to her. She didn't speak to my siblings or myself at all for a little while, and at any point trying to get her to do therapy or anything like that would be met with strong resistance, vehemently denying anything was wrong, and this caused a lot of tension in the household for both my parents and for Amy.
Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Jairus. As a 17-year-old girl, Amy is at a critical point in her physical, cognitive, and social development, and her disordered eating practices can impact all aspects of this. Firstly, there are the physical implications of her diet. Her high-sugar diet puts her at a risk of type 2 diabetes, while her overall calorie deficit can impact her strength and immune system, and can cause hair loss and loss of menstruation. As the disease progresses, the damage to her body could become even more severe, with risks including complication with the heart, liver, and kidneys, osteoporosis, infertility, and even death. Her high sugar, low calorie diet can also impede her cognitive function, causing issues with learning and memory, which is of particular concern at a time where she's undergoing exams and beginning to attend university. The social implications of her disorder are also of concern. Young people living with anorexia typically have people around them who become concerned by their eating habits and may question the young person or encourage them to eat more. This could cause her to withdraw from her social group during a time in which her development, where social relationships are critical to self-esteem and linked to improve emotional support and stress reduction. Amy may turn to online communities for support, such as pro-ana websites, where tips for losing weight, concealing weight loss and eating behaviours are shared, and emaciation is celebrated. One of the biggest difficulties for Amy is that the symptoms of the disorder perpetuate the behaviour, creating a very difficult cycle to break. On top of the physical, cognitive, and social implications, there are also cultural implications, which have not only contributed to her disorder, but will prove to be problematic over the course of her recovery. New Zealand has a culture heavily influenced by America, where ideals of thinness are perpetuated by the media. On top of this, through her weight loss, she received compliments from her peers. This provides a mixed message to Amy, where on the one hand, she has family who ask her to eat more and gain weight, but it's within a larger cultural context where the greater message is to eat less and lose weight. In fact, during the prevalence of childhood obesity, fat stigma is at an all-time high. Government-funded campaigns run on the TV, in the street, and even in some schools advertise the risks of carrying extra weight and demonizing certain foods. While certainly a sedentary lifestyle and an unbalanced diet carry certain health risks, these scare campaigns contribute to fat stigma, especially for young women. where they enforce the socially constructed truth that weight loss is success and weight gain is failure. It's going to be very tricky for Amy to successfully gain enough weight to overcome the physical implications of her disorder within this cultural context. Alex, is there any hope for girls like Amy?
Thanks, Casey. So, according to research, there are several strategies for people like Amy. So, I'd like to mention a therapy called dissonance-based therapy. And according to dissonance-based therapy, it's based on social psychology principles which focus on attitudes and behaviors. So, according to dissonance-based therapy, it attempts to promote adaptive behavior through participants modeling the desired behavior in a group setting. So this provides an opportunity for them to validate maladaptive cognitions or thoughts, and this is maximized when individuals voluntarily assume this conflicting behavior, because this allows them to attach the changes to the situation, which leads to a minor attitude change. And the dissonance can be resolved by reducing the validations of this thin ideal internalization through activities such as inviting the individual to voluntarily challenge this ideal through discussion involving role plays, group activities such as written tasks and behavioral exercises. And so research has demonstrated significant reduction in risk factors, including symptoms, future risk for onset of disordered eating, obesity, and mental health. Some of these studies produce significantly stronger effects than those of other prevention programs, and this persisted through a 3-year follow-up period. The effectiveness may be challenging an individual's self-concept, which is more enduring than when it's motivated by an external source. However, there are limitations in these studies, such as follow-up periods being brief, and most effects deteriorated after the 3rd year. Additionally, the evidence for significant reductions in risk factors only emerged from one study, which conducted a long-term follow-up. Effects for interventions on individual outcomes were also inconsistently replicated. Despite these issues, though, dissonance-based therapy presents a promising direction for disordered eating with significant empirical support, which, compared to alternate strategies, are quite significant.
Wow, well, it sounds like there's a lot of hope out there. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thanks so much for joining us today, and a special thanks for all of our guests here on Youth Matters. Have a great night, everybody.